What if Scream 7 took the new Nightmare approach? Let's get into it. Rumor has it that Scream 7 may or may not take the new Nightmare approach with the next installment, and today I want to pitch my own idea for a new Nightmare version of Scream. But first we have to define that. What does that even mean? In 1994, Wes Craven returned to the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise to make one of the only good sequels in that entire franchise. What the movie does essentially is it takes a fictionalized version of some of the actors and actresses from the original Nightmare on Elm Street and tells a story about them having to face off against Freddy Krueger. For instance, you have Heather Langenkamp and Robert Englund playing fictionalized versions of themselves, who are literally stars in LA. If Scream, another Wes Craven property, took the same approach, I think it might be really fun. There's no denying that this approach is total fan service, but I think there's a difference between something like that and just a movie that the studio knows will make money. Studio executives know that if they pump out a Scream 7 where Stu Macher comes back to life, everyone's gonna go and see it. That's gonna make $200 million. But is it gonna be reviewed well? I don't know about that. I think that there's a vocal minority of Scream fans that would absolutely love it to death, but that's gonna be about it. Trust me, I'm not about to pitch something that I think is gonna be better than the original Scream, but I think it's something that fans of specifically that original movie would absolutely love. You'd get to see some of the wonderful cast members from that original movie return to a Scream film. I mean, that's awesome. Speaking of that, let's get to our cast of characters. Now, I'm making this video in Fantasyland where all of this wonderful stuff just happened to work out. So let's say we bring back most of the cast of the original Scream, including Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, David Arquette, Skeet Ulrich, Drew Barrymore, Matthew Lillard, Rose McGowan, Jamie Kennedy, Liev Schreiber, and Roger L. Jackson. We could also have cameos from some of the other people in the Scream movies like Henry Winkler, Melissa Barrera, Jenna Ortega, Parker Posey, the list goes on. But I think the point of doing a new Nightmare version of Scream is focusing on the original cast especially. There's nothing wrong with a good cameo from like Jack Quaid or Dermot Mulroney, I'm totally down for that. But I think we gotta focus on these central characters. So moving into the plot, just like New Nightmare, we'll be focusing on Neve Campbell, who of course plays Sidney Prescott in the movies, but she'll be playing a fictionalized version of herself. The opening kill for a Scream movie is always so important to set the tone. So something I thought would be really funny for a New Nightmare version of Scream is if Roger Jackson himself was killed by Ghostface. Roger L. Jackson is the iconic voice of Ghostface after all. I think it would be kind of hilarious and super meta if they were to kill him in the opening scene in his fictional LA mansion. There's so much that can come from that too, like Roger L. Jackson just on the phone being like, dude, that movie came out almost 30 years ago. Leave me alone. Maybe a little chase ensues, whatever, but this ultimately does lead to the death of fictional Roger L. Jackson. I have to say fictional so I don't get sued. Speaking of fictional, you have to embellish some stuff in this New Nightmare version of Scream, or I just don't think it's going to work. They did that for New Nightmare back in '94. Why can't I do that here in 2024? Roger L. Jackson has gone on record to say that he's really never met some of the cast from Scream. I don't know if that has since changed since that interview came out, but to make this story work, let's just say that Roger was friends with all of these other stars from this movie all this time. Maybe they had a group chat or something like that. Neve, Courtney, David, Skeet, the rest of the gang here pretty much, they all meet up, they get a drink to mourn the loss of their friend Roger. They of course talk a little bit about how freaky it is that he was murdered, like just out of absolutely nowhere, crazy shit. And then maybe they start to catch up with each other a little bit, talk about their careers, yada yada. Drew Barrymore, having her show in the morning, has to dip early, so she leaves, she goes back home, and then she gets a call from Ghostface. Fictional Drew Barrymore is our second kill, America's sweetheart. I think this would be so funny because of course she's the iconic opening kill of the original Scream, so to have her die second is like, well, you made it a little farther into this one at least. There's so much humor that can be generated from this phone call between her and Ghostface too. I would just love to see this happen. So with a huge star like that murdered in cold blood and the killer still being out there, it's huge news, like international news. It's all over the place. People are freaked out and pissed off. The rest of the cast at Scream at this point is saying to themselves, oh my god, it's a crazed fan coming after us. They're trying to kill everybody and they're still out there on the loose. Let's say they talk to the cops, some character moments ensue, whatever, let's get to the next kill. Trying to account for the entire cast and to figure out who's next, Courtney Cox remembers that Liev Schreiber was in a single scene of the original Scream, which is when we cut to his house. It cuts to Liev, who has just gotten the news about Drew Barrymore at his house, and he's like, oh my god, that's terrible. Liev is gonna be the next one to go though, because he gets himself a call from from Ghostface as Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, and David Arquette are racing quickly over to his house. This is really funny to me because it's like they forgot he was in the first movie because he's only in like that one scene. I think this would be a great instance of like horror trivia that people will forget about the original movie, which once again, I feel like is very necessary if we're going to do this new Nightmare version of Scream that is really just for the fans. Liev Schreiber gets killed. Ghostface just barely gets away as Neve Campbell gets a glimpse at whoever it could be. Ghostface runs out the back door. Think about like the Olivia kill from Scream 4. I want to frame it kind of similar to that. All of our big stars here are freaked out at this point. They're like, we have to hide. Like Ghostface is coming after us. It is very clear at this point. I'm gonna say they go to Courtney Cox's house. I don't know why. I just think that would be kind of cool. We get some scenes here where the rest of the cast gets to reconcile a bit. Maybe Jamie and Neve have a bit of a conversation. Rose is there too. David Arquette and Courtney Cox have a little back and forth. Maybe they're with like Skeet and Matthew. I don't know. There's just some conversations being had. Everyone's catching up. They're talking about wanting to do some more movies together. David Arquette and Courtney Cox are having their little back and forth conversation when Ghostface runs in and attacks them. Fictional Courtney Cox would be our next death. A very emotional moment here for David Arquette especially, who would be mourning her loss. The reason I'm choosing to do this is because we saw the opposite of that in Scream 5, Gale Weathers so upset over the death of Dewey. So to see the opposite of that happen in the new Nightmare version of Scream, once again, very fan servicey, but very cool, I think. Let's flash forward to the third act because I haven't really fleshed out this outline as much as I probably should, but I just want to get these ideas out there. Both Matthew Lillard and Skeet Ulrich get their throats slit by our two ghost faces. It'll be kind of a funny moment and a good way to reveal ghost faces because they literally kill the first two ghost faces in this moment. I think this will be an upsetting death too, because Matthew Lillard and Skeet Ulrich are both super nice in real life, so this will not only be upsetting, but it'll also be a really cool way to reveal our ghost faces, who are of course Rose McGowan and Jamie Kennedy. Gasp! Before I talk about their motive, don't forget, this is a fictionalized version of all of these real life people. I think it would be really funny if Rose McGowan and Jamie Kennedy both teamed up to kill the stars of Scream because they don't really like Hollywood all that much. They have both been vocal about that on their social media pages, YouTube channels, whatever. It's oddly a likely team up, and if you were to twist these real life people into dark versions of themselves, I think you could tell a very interesting story here. The third act from this point here on out is Rose McGowan and Jamie Kennedy giving their little Ghostface spiel about why they're killing all the stars of Scream. They have to finish off Neve Campbell and David Arquette, but that of course doesn't happen. They're the stars of the show, baby. This has got to have a happy ending after all. Neve Campbell and David Arquette successfully take out both Rose and Jamie, maybe in very vicious ways, and the cops show up. End of movie. There are definitely other routes that you can take a new Nightmare Scream. For instance, Wes Craven's New Nightmare tries to make Freddy scarier. I'm kind of leaning into the sillier edge to all of this. So maybe you can take it down a different route where it really is a fan of Scream killing people. But I just feel like that's too similar to what the movies have already done. I feel like if you're going to go the New Nightmare route, you kind of got to take it down a sillier path. Fan service movies at their core are very like silly and fun, maybe much more similar to the tone of something like Scream 3 versus the tone of something like Scream 4. But I think I still got some emotional deaths in there. I mean, the Courtney Cox scene, I think would definitely be a bit of a tearjerker. You'd also have to get a lot of this cast to agree to basically make fun of themselves the entire time, which sometimes not everyone is always down to do. But I think if everyone was willing to, this would be a really fun, goofy little movie that fans of this franchise would probably love. Like I said, this isn't my preferred route for what Scream 7 should do. I would like a continuation to the actual story at hand here. I hope that's what happens for Scream 7, but if they do go the New Nightmare route, I'm not going to be opposed to it. What do you guys think about doing a New Nightmare version of Scream though? Leave me something about it in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching this brand new Scream 7 theory video. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more horror content in the future. Please consider supporting me on Patreon by clicking the link in the description below to see videos early and vote in the versus polls. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.